Yaser Said intentionally and knowingly caused the death of Amina Said and Yaser Said by shooting them with a firearm, a deadly weapon, in the same criminal transaction. That is the charge. It is simple, as is this case. Amina and Yaser Said returned home after running away from him. After planning, packing, waiting for him to go to work, getting money, getting a car, having friends, getting a lease, they ran away from him. They lied to their brother to get away from Yaser Said. And when they returned home, Amina most certainly unwillingly, she came home that day unwillingly, Yaser Said puts them in his borrowed orange cab to go to Denny's or to talk to them. He is the last one to be seen with these girls, and they are found in a cab stand at the Omni Mandalay. Irving police, with dispatch and boots on the ground, worked tirelessly to figure out who this distressed victim was, Yaser Said. Officer Bracey went all over Las Colinas trying to find this distressed victim or any suspect or what was going on. They had very little information. And with very little or anything to go on, they do. They get the call that the borrowed orange cab has two people down, Amina and Yaser Said, slumped over, dead in that cab. And he is nowhere to be found. And with little or no information, certainly not from him, they figure out who the driver was of the cab, because that makes sense. That is what they are supposed to do. Who was driving this car with these girls in it in this very tight time frame that they figure out. And they figure out who was driving that cab, and they figure out, again, he is nowhere to be found, their father. And then Irving PD talks to Patricia, the wife, friends, family, teachers, and they figure out what was going on in this home. Irving PD never got this wrong. And you heard that from the defendant's own statement, which was absurd. He is asking you to suspend all common sense, all reality, to believe that story. It was so absurd, it is insulting to the memory of Amina and Yaser Said. He left them in that car. He said that they were going to work it out with whoever was following him, these phantom people. He can't figure out who they are. He can't tell you why they were following. He can't tell you why someone would want to hurt him. He can't give you any of that. He leaves the very girls in the car that he has controlled.
That's flipping the burden. It is not his responsibility to prove his innocence. It is their responsibility to prove his guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. And putting to this jury in closing arguments that he has any obligation to prove anything to them is flipping that burden. It is a reversible error.
The jury will remember that the burden rests on the state throughout the trial.
Ladies and gentlemen,
beyond a reasonable doubt, rests on the state throughout the trial, never shifts to the defendant. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, he wouldn't even let these girls go to a movie. He wouldn't let them date. But he's going to walk out of this cab, walk away from it, with two boys he doesn't know, or two people, and let them sort it out. And he's going to leave a gun in that car. He's going to leave a phone in that car. Does that seem reasonable? It is absolutely not reasonable. He went to Waffle House to hang out. He had no plan. He didn't know when he was going to see those girls again. He finds out and he calls it an accident. He vanishes for 12 years. He, Yaser Said, doesn't go to their funeral. He had no plan because that's not what happened. It is not logical. It doesn't make any sense. It is absurd. Ladies and gentlemen, it is tragic that Amina and Yaser Said felt they had to run away. And it is tragic that there wasn't any other options for them. And it is tragic that this man loomed over their lives in what I would loosely call a home. That they even had to make any of these decisions. All of that is tragic. But the most important witnesses who were not here are Amina and Yaser Said, because they told you. They reached out and they told friends and family and teachers what was going on. And they told you. Amina Said told you what would happen. That he will kill us. And Yaser Said, in her 911 call, in her last dying breaths, told you that it did happen. And by whom? Their father, Yaser Said. Yaser Said needs to be held accountable for the deaths, for the murder, for the slaughter of these girls. We are asking for a guilty verdict on capital murder. It's the second line on this back page. Yaser Said is guilty. There is no other verdict. Thank you.